When I pull up on a hater, watch a hater fall back. I'm too good with these hands, watch a hater fall back.
What's up, guys? Tilo for the Parley, parleyshow.com. Of course, follow us on our links, description box, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, of course, Twitter. We are all over the place. Unfortunately, I'm by myself in studio, but I am not alone. We have my boy Shaun Davis, who's going to be joining us as our special guest today. And of course, y'all thought KG wasn't going to be here, but he cannot get away from this because today's episode is about Shaun Porter and Terrance Crawford. And it was crazy on Saturday. A lot happened, and we're about to discuss it. But once again, I got to remind everyone right there, please go to the link in the description box. Follow us. Hit that bell in the notification section. We want to know from you guys what you want to talk about, what's going on in the world of boxing. And, of course, we just like to hear from y'all. We hear all the comments, by the way, especially the haters. I mean, you know, people mostly hate on me, but we could discuss that a little bit later. We're going to kick it off, though. We're going to turn right into our Zoom meeting. And Shaun, you've been around the Chicago game for a very long time and know a lot about what's going on. But you're a boxing dude, and I had to bring you on because there's a lot to talk about what happened on Saturday. And for those of you that didn't know, Shaun Porter, Terrance Crawford went down in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a great fight, a great welterweight matchup, and ended up with a very interesting decision by Shaun Porter's father stopping it. And he said he could not continue anymore. Shaun going down twice in round 11, and a very, 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 very odd ending to the fight. Kendall, I'm going to start off with you. Kendall, how did you feel about the stoppage and overall the fight?
I felt that the stoppage was a little too early. Shaun is a two-time welterweight champion. You know, he had all of his faculties when he got up. Actually, the first knockdown was a balance shot. If you go back and look at it, he threw a right-left combination, and then his feet were squared up. They were right together, which is a no-no in boxing. And he got hit, went down. I mean, if his feet were in a proper position, he wouldn't have gone down on that shot. But the second knockdown was legitimate. You know, he caught Shaun with a right hook because he was standing in the southpaw position. But, you know, I still felt that Shaun could have continued. You know, his dad, you know, I know both Shaun and his dad. And, you know, that's sometimes what's wrong with having a father as a trainer, you know, because sometimes he can pull the plug on you a little bit too early. Because, you know, he sees his son out there. He doesn't want to see his son get in harm's way. It's different when you're really not related to that person and you're strictly a trainer. That being said, I felt like Shaun should have been able to continue until he wasn't able to defend himself, because when he got up, I thought that he was perfectly capable of defending himself. The fight, I had a draw until the 10th round, until the two knockdowns. I got a chance to watch it. I wasn't able to watch it in real time because I was at the Bulls game. But, you know, I felt like the fight was a draw. But, you know, I could see where Terrance was starting to time him coming in. You know, Shaun has a tendency to lunge in with his punches. Was doing well up until that point. But, you know, you got to give it to Terrance Crawford, man. He's a master boxer, master technician, made the adjustments, and you know, was the first man to stop Shaun Porter.
And my apologies, that was actually round 10 stoppage, not round 11. I had to make sure I correct myself there before they come and get me. And talking about that, you know, Shaun, you know, Kenny Porter, Shaun Porter's father, you know, having him stop the fight. A lot of the times we look at father-son trainers. A lot of the times you see father trainers do let their fighters go, but then most of the time you'll see them protect them. How'd you feel about the stoppage itself?
Well, I felt that it was early. It was too early. You know, Shaun had deserved the right to try to defend himself and try to work himself out of that round. I mean, you never know what could have happened. He could have held Terrance until he got everything together, until he got his legs back. But he wasn't afforded that opportunity. I mean, anytime a guy is banging on the floor with his gloves after he gets knocked down, he's still there. You know, Shaun was just upset that he got knocked down, you know. But his dad, you know, famously said in an interview afterwards, you know, his preparation for the fight wasn't what it used to be. And he felt that, you know, Shaun lost the fight before he even stepped in the ring. I wouldn't have said that because I thought that he that he kind of threw Shaun under the bus, but you know, that's the type of relationship that they have.
Sean Davis, chime in on this, man. How did you feel about the stoppage in the 10th round?
I mean, I was right along with Kendall right after the fight. I definitely thought the stoppage was a little bit too early. And it was strange because you didn't know what had happened. It was like, yo, what's going on? And then you find out that his father was actually the one that asked for the stoppage. And then as I watched Shaun Porter's interview, I believe it was on Fight Hype, you know, the day after his exclusive interview, when he began to talk about what was going on leading up to the Spence fight with him and how going into the Spence fight, he really thought his career was over. And his Spence fight was his last fight. And that's his mindset going into the Spence fight. And it was really the money and being able to fight Terrence Crawford that brought him out of that mindset. And he said coming into camp, he really didn't have the love for it anymore like that to go and train, which is what Kendall talked about, what Shaun Porter, his father talked about post-fight. So as I started to listen to that and kind of line that up with what his father was saying post-fight, it just kind of lines up. As a father, you're watching your son, the way he's moving, the way he's talking. And one of the important things he said as well is that, you know, I saw this and I came into this fight prepared to do this because I saw this coming, because I saw the lack of preparation. And we know Bud, we know Terrence Crawford, we know what it takes to be able to beat him. And I think Kendall touched on something. You saw a super effort based upon all of that. The fact that he was in that fight and had a chance to win going into the 10th round, that was, man, that's a superhero type effort.
Yeah, it was.
You know, that Shaun Porter gave on that night when he didn't really give everything that he needed to prepare for the fight, and he still was able to come out and give that type of effort to be in the fight. But as a father stepping back and listening to both sides and both of them knowing what led to the Spence fight and what the mindset going into that fight was, and then right after that, and the real reason why they took the Crawford fight, as a father, I could see why he jumped the gun. Like, I still believe he jumped the gun, but I didn't have all of those facts, and I didn't live that. I wasn't part of the conversations between father and son leading up to the Spence fight and after that. So being a part of that and having all the information, you know, Kenny made a decision that most of us will look at and say, man, that was a little bit too soon. But I believe he was looking at what could happen later on the 10th and the 11th. Because like Kendall pointed out, and he's a technician and he boxes, he knows. Like, once a guy that's as elite as Terrence Crawford starts to get your timing and you really can't protect yourself, and you're in positions from a boxing standpoint that you shouldn't be in, like he said on that first knockdown. The punch really shouldn't have knocked him down if he was in the right position and had the right footing, but he wasn't. And that's unusual for Shaun Porter. Even though he lunges a lot, he usually ends up in the right position. And when he started getting hit more and more flush, I could see it being more of a knockout and him being laid out somewhere in the 11th or the 12th round. And I think his father knew what the mindset was and said, you know what? I'm not about to allow my son to go out on his back. I would much rather take the blame on myself, get up here and stop it right now. And that's just based upon none of us know what the conversations were, but they both alluded to the fact that there were conversations along that line even before the Spence fight. So I'm just going to go ahead and, as a father myself, kind of give Kenny the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I get it. I might not agree with it and I might not have done it, but I see where you're coming from.
Spur of the moment, and definitely as boxing fans, you think to yourself, like, no, like, Shaun is fine. He's mad. He's hitting the canvas. He's perfectly fine. Why are you stopping the fight with this whole culture now protecting the fighter? It's tougher as a fan to watch it. And of course, you get more of the facts and you start to dive into why it was stopped. Then you start to consider the situation. I have two questions for both of you. I'll start with Kendall. Kendall, who did a better job versus Crawford now? Was it Spence? I'm sorry, who did a better job versus Porter? Was it Spence or was it Crawford?
You know, I really think it's hard to say, man, because, you know, Shaun, I felt, could have continued. Yeah, Terrence Crawford was the first person to stop him, but up until that point, I felt that the fight was a draw, just like it was against Errol Spence. Errol didn't separate himself until he knocked down Shaun until the 11th round of that fight. So I think it's pretty much the same. I thought that Shaun offensively had more success against Terrence than he did against Errol, but Errol was standing right there going toe to toe with him. Maybe Errol, could see the fight and could see a couple things he could use that where he could get to Terrence Crawford, but we'll never know. I don't think I could answer that question and give you a good answer because I felt that both of them had their struggles with Shaun Porter, but both of them came out, with the same ending.
Yeah.
Shaun?
I can tag along with what Kendall just said because offensively, I do believe that Shaun Porter had a lot more success versus Bud. But I think Bud, in a sense, kind of allowed that. Bud, and I think the word that was used in Shaun Porter's interview the next morning, he was like, man, he just has this special quality about him, whereas when you're boxing him, you come in trying to break up, his rhythm, but there's no way to know what his rhythm is going to be for that fight because he can adjust to anything on the fly. It's the same thing we used to hear about fighters when they fought Floyd Mayweather. It's like you're trying to look at film and take into the ring what you need to do, but they have this ability to think on the fly and adjust to whatever you're trying to do to them. And it's just this special quality. So, he was like, yo, I saw him thinking. Like I'm feigning and going into my moves, but I can see him thinking and playing chess with what I'm doing. So now I'm overthinking because I see him thinking. And Shaun Porter pointed out in the post game, he said, I can never get into my rhythm. And that's why, because you're sitting there playing chess with a chess master and you can't do what you need to do for the sake of trying to figure out what they're trying to do to you. So he definitely had some offensive moments. But my question would be, because I'm not sure, and I want to watch the fight one more time, was Bud really ever in trouble? You know what I'm saying? It's like he lost rounds, but I don't think I ever felt like Bud just lost control of the fight. Because they pretty much went back and forth with rounds. Like one would win one round, the next one would come back and win the next round, and vice versa. So Bud was in the pocket, and then when Bud finally figured him out, it was late in the 8th round where I think Bud kind of figured him out.
Yeah, that's when he started timing him.
Then he started timing him, and you start to see Bud walk forward more and be the aggressor. And at that point, Shaun, really, there was nothing Shaun could go to. There was nothing left in the well. From a tactical standpoint, he didn't have the same strength he had early in the fight. And you saw, I think around 5, we saw Bud kind of push him back and push him off of him. I'm like, oh, that's strange. Because that's usually Shaun doing that to the other fighter. Yeah. But it was that's a great fight to just show up and coming boxers, how to be a professional boxer. Because when you face elite, a competition, it's not always going to go your way.
Absolutely. That's the truth. You know what that fight reminds me of? It reminds me of Floyd Mayweather versus Diego Corrales. Mm-hmm. Remember, Diego Corrales' dad was in his corner too. Yeah. And Floyd was breaking Diego Corrales down, and then all of a sudden his father just stopped it. And Diego Corrales was upset with his dad too, just like Shaun, but a little bit more than Shaun, but it reminded me of the same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have one more question for both of you. There is a clip on ESPN Ringside where they're showing Terrence Crawford, Shaun, to your point, where he's looking at Shaun and he barely blinks. Terrence doesn't blink. He's just right there focused. So whatever Shaun was saying, I can imagine what that felt like in the ring. And you're absolutely right. Razor sharp, razor accurate, with his counter punches and with his offense as well. Last question I have, and this show is very popular for my take on Terrence Crawford being overrated. And I'm going to have to pull this YouTube video down from YouTube. But let's ask the question. Kendall, is Terrence overrated now?
No, I've changed my mind. He's not overrated. This was a test for me to see how his skills translated to the top level of the welterweight division. Shaun Porter is one of the top guys at the welterweight division, you know, and he beat Shaun not handily, but he beat him. He stopped him.
Oh, we lost KG. It's okay. We'll see if we can get him back here. Shaun, I asked you the question: Is Crawford overrated to you, or did you ever think he was overrated?
Well, first of all, I never thought he was overrated. I just think.
Come on, man! Don't do me like that.
I think fighters now, man, suffer from the culture of boxing being totally different, right? This is not the era where you had Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and Leonard, and they all wanted to fight each other. Because I think all the top boxers want to fight. They're competitors.
Right.
I believe they want to fight each other, but when you have to have all these fights made by the promoters, the Golden Boy and Bob Arum, and I'm glad, you know, he decided to get out from under Bob Arum right after the fight, Bud Crawford. So no, he was never underrated to me. He was just, you know, everything and the thoughts and the narrative surrounding that was just a byproduct of the culture of boxing today, right? It's not like it used to be. It's more politics than it is anything else, and more about the money. And Bud Crawford has been on record before the fight saying, yo, I've been ready for Spence. I was ready for Spence before the accident. Bob Arum couldn't make it happen. His people couldn't make it happen. And even if he fought Spence now, think about this. Post-car accident, post-retina issue, people won't give him the full credit because they won't feel like Spence is the same guy. You know, and that's why, in frustration after the fight, he said, I don't need Spence. Like, yeah, you do, because that's the money fight. But I understand the frustration because he's like, yo, I've been wanting to fight this dude. And if I fight him now, no one's going to give me the proper credit because they're going to use these excuses to say, well, you didn't fight him when he was at his peak. So at this point in time, you know, I guess he could fight Josh Taylor, right? But I mean, at this point, Taylor would probably be he would be a big time underdog going into that fight, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah. I think he would crush Josh Taylor.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Keith
moving up from 140.
Yeah.
And Keith Thurman.
No, I mean, there's really nothing out there for him at this point, man. I mean, the big money fight for him, and it would never happen because there's no way Canelo is coming down in weight to meet him. But I mean, that would be the only fight for me that Bud could really, if somehow, some way, he could fight Canelo to catch weight. Because Bud is a big dude. Bud is a big dude. He was big in the ring on Saturday night. So
yeah, and he put Shaun around too. So he proved that.
Yeah,
he proved he's not the smaller guy.
Right. So I mean, if he can get Canelo to come down and maybe fight him, that's the biggest money fight out there for him.
Yeah, but you know the thing is that he's still got to fight Errol Spence.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not only is that the money fight, it's the legacy fight.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if he doesn't fight him, everybody when he's retired, everybody said, "Yeah, but you didn't fight Errol Spence." You know, and I actually favor Errol still in that fight because a lot of Terrence Crawford's advantages come from him starting off orthodox, then ending up southpaw, and he stays southpaw most of the time. With Errol Spence, you're not going to have that advantage as you have on the rest of the fighters because he's southpaw too. You know, we've yet to see Terrence face another southpaw that's as good as him.
Right.
You know, and Errol throws 100 punches around. He doesn't, you know, like, you know, all the other fighters that Terrence Crawford has faced, you know, they're more measured. They're more maybe going 50, 60 punches around. It's a lot different when you got a killer coming at you with 100 punches around.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. Both guys on Saturday night did an amazing job. They put on a class performance. It's all about, that's what prize fighting is all about, and they did a great job. Porter, again, couldn't get it done. Crawford proving that he is a top welterweight in the division. I still think he's number 2, but I have my own thoughts here, and I'll chime him in a bit. But, gentlemen, I appreciate you being on the show. Shaun, appreciate you. We got to have you more often, man.
Absolutely, my brother. I appreciate you guys, man. Both of you guys, man. Keep doing your thing, and happy holidays to you and the family.
All right. Good job, Shaun.
Yes, sir.
And KG, man, you better be in here next time.
I will be, man. You know, it's basketball season, brother. I'm busy.
I got you, man. We seen you Sunday night.
Yeah.
Hey, well, KG, man, appreciate you. I know you're very busy, but thanks for being on the show with us today. And one last thing too for everyone out there, I had to make sure I made this personal for everyone. You know, there's a video up there that says Terrence Crawford is overrated, and I'm gonna have to maybe bring that down because what happened on Saturday night, I officially do not believe that sentiment anymore. I believe that he is not an overrated welterweight. And when I made that video, I gave the resume about who he fought coming up into welterweight, and then of course fighting in the welterweight division. And it just didn't impress me, especially because he wasn't fighting people up to his caliber, I felt. But now after I see him with Shaun Porter, I can see him being a huge problem in the welterweight division. Don't think he's better than Arrow yet, but he definitely proved to me on Saturday he is not overrated. He is a great boxer. He belongs at the top, maybe not pound for pound, but he is right there, top 5 boxers in the world. And Terrence did an awesome job on Saturday. And I got to give him his props, man. Give him his props. Okay, Terrence, if you was mad at me, if you ever saw the content I put up, my bad, dog. By the way, you went to Zion. I went to Zion, too. Zion Benton High School. At least that's what I was told. If I'm wrong, fact check me on that, please. But regardless, you did an amazing job. You're not overrated, but I definitely have to see, like Kendall said, this legacy fight against Errol Spence. I can't wait to see it, so we'll see what happens in this welterweight division. Will they be able to get it done now that Terrence Crawford is now a free agent? He's no longer with Top Rank Boxing, so we'll see what happens. The Parlay, YouTube, everything, description in the box. Please follow us on everything social media, and we'll continue talking combat sports here on The Parlay. I'm pretty much done. I'm hungry as heck. I'm out of here. Peace. What's up, guys? Tilo from The Parlay, Kendall, Gill. If you like what you saw, follow, subscribe, visit us on our website, all that stuff. Do it. You know what I'm about to do right now, though?
What's that?
I'm about to go beat your record in 2K. 11 steals. 11 steals.
Just as long as you do it on 2K.
11 steals. Easy.
As long as you do it on 2K. Just don't do it on the court for real.
When I pull up on a hater, watch a hater fall back. I'm too good with these hands, watch a hater fall flat. If I die, all I know, I'm a fucking legend. It's so great for my city. I'm the realest one that's repping.